In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make these crocheted long stem roses. These are the flowers that never die. And these roses are perfect for all sorts of occasions. You can make it and give it to your loved ones, or you can simply make it without the stem and use it as a motif on a hat or on any other project you might decide is reasonable and perfect to have a rose on it. You can, of course, do it in any color that you like. I happen to be using red in the tutorial today and showing you an example of this variegated pink one that I like quite a bit. Welcome to Weaving Weird Studio and my creative weird life. My name is Sig, and what a pleasure it is to have this time with you today. It's your interest and support that allows me to contribute new content and weekly videos. Help us all grow together by tapping the subscribe bar, notification bell, and like buttons. I look forward to your comments and always value your feedback. Now let's get started. So for today's tutorial, you are going to need just a few things. You're going to need size 10 crochet thread. For me, I'm using this Aunt Lydia's Victory Red, and also Curio by Knit Picks. I'm going to use their size 10 crochet thread in a color called Jalapeno. I'm also going to need a tapestry needle. I'm going to need a size 2 or 1.50 millimeter hook, steel hook for lace crocheting. I'm going to need some kind of small jewelry wire cutter, or any kind of wire cutter, really. It doesn't have to be anything too substantial, because the wire you ideally would be using is just a 20 gauge jewelry or craft wire. Okay, so to begin with, I'm going to use my red thread, and we're going to begin by crocheting the petals. Now we're going to need a total of 10 petals altogether. And the first petal, I'm going to start off by making an adjustable ring, or magic ring, for those of you who know it by that name. I'm going to get it started with my chain 1. And then I'm going to single crochet 8 single crochets. Yeah, let's try to get this focused in a little better. There we go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then I'm going to close my ring, and I'm going to join. I'm going to join with a slip stitch, and then I'm going to chain 2. And then in that same stitch, I am going to half double crochet. And then I'm going to do 7 half double crochet increases. So basically that's going to be 2 half double crochets in each of the following stitches. So that'll be 1. 2. And 7. You should have a total of 16 stitches on your round. Then I'm going to join. With a slip stitch. And then I'm going to chain 2 again. Then I'm going to make a double crochet in that stitch, that same stitch. And then in each of the following stitches, I'm going to make a double crochet increase. So basically 2 double crochets in each of the next stitches, giving you a total of 32 stitches at the end of round 3. When you've completed your round 3 with your 32 stitches, you're going to join and then chain 1. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to single crochet in that same stitch. And then I'm going to do an additional 9 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Then I want to half double crochet twice. 1 and 2. And then I want to do double crochet 7 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now in the next 2 stitches, a half double crochet, 1 and then 2. And then follow that up with 10 more single crochets in those last 10 stitches. So 1 and 10. You're going to join with a slip stitch and chain 1. And then in the 5th row and the last row of this petal, we're going to crab stitch. So for those of you who aren't familiar with crab stitch is basically a reverse single crochet. So you do it just like a single crochet, but in reverse. So you take your hook and you insert it into the stitch to your right, if you're right-handed, and then yarn over and pull that through. If you're left-handed, you're going to do it to the stitch to the left of you, basically going in reverse. Now you're going to want to leave yourself a little bit of a tail on these pieces because you'll use these tails to sew with. So your piece should look like this. That's your small piece, and you'll make one of those. So now the next size we're going to make is the medium size petal, and we're going to want 2 of those. And that one is very similar to the size small petal with just a couple of small. So as before, I'm going to make the adjustable ring, and we're going to chain 1. And we're going to make 9 single crochets. So 1, 2, 8, and 9. And then we're going to join. Chain 2. And I'm going to do a half double crochet in that same stitch. Okay, just as before. Or we're going to do half double crochet increases 8 times, leaving us with a total of 18 stitches complete on round 2. And join with a slip stitch and chain 2 again. Then double crochet in the same stitch. And then also double crochet increase in each of the additional 16 stitches, giving us a total of 34 stitches. And then join. then when you complete your 34 stitches on round 3, go ahead and join and chain 1. Single crochet in the same stitch, and then 9 more single crochets, giving you a total of 10 single crochets. And then a half double crochet twice, 1 and 2. Then we're going to do a double crochet in the next stitch. And in the next 7 stitches, we're going to go ahead and do a double crochet increase. So that's basically 2 double crochets in the same stitch for the next 7 stitches. Then I'm going to need a double crochet, and then a half double crochet twice, and then 10 single crochets. And then we're going to join with a slip stitch. Chain 1, and then for the 5th round we're going to crab stitch. So now your medium-sized petal should look something like this, and you'll need to have 2 of these. So now your 3rd petal, and the largest of the petals, we're going to begin very similarly as we have done before. Begin with the magic ring and a chain, and then 9 single crochets. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And again join with a slip stitch and chain 2. Half double crochet in the same stitch, and then half double crochet increase in the next 8 stitches, giving you a total of 18 half double crochets for round 2. And when you come to the end of round 2, join with a slip stitch and then chain twice. Double crochet in the same stitch, and then double crochet increase in the next 16 stitches, giving you a total of 34 stitches at the end of round 3. Then again, join with a slip stitch and chain 1. Single crochet in the same stitch as we start round 4, and then single crochet in the next 8 stitches. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Next, half double crochet in the next stitch, and then double crochet in the stitch after that. Then in the next stitch, we're going to double crochet once, and then treble crochet 2 times. So you'll have a total of 3 stitches in that same stitch. So you want 1 double crochet and 2 treble crochets. Now in the next stitch after that, you're going to want 3 treble crochets. So 1, 2, and 3, all in the same stitch. And then the next stitch after that, you're going to want a treble crochet plus a treble crochet plus a half double crochet. So that stitch is going to have 2 treble crochets plus a half or plus a double crochet, all in that same stitch. And then in the next stitch, a half double crochet. And then next, we're going to decrease with a single crochet. So that's going to look like this. You're going to insert your hook in that next stitch, and you're going to pull a loop through. And then you're going to insert your hook into the next stitch, and you're going to pull another loop through. So you should have 3 loops on your hook, and this is what that should look like. And then complete it like you would a normal single crochet. And you've completed your single crochet decrease. Now I'm going to half double crochet in the next stitch. And in the stitch after that, I'm going to put a double crochet plus 2 treble crochets. And then in the next stitch after that, I'm going to put 3 treble crochets. And then in that next stitch, I'm going to put 2 treble crochets plus a double crochet. And then in the stitch after that, I'm going to put a double crochet. And then the stitch after that, I'm going to place a half double crochet. And in the next 10 stitches, I am going to put a single crochet. I'm going to join and then make a single chain. So now I should look something like this. Okay, and then as before, I'm going to crab stitch around this entire petal. And that will give me my large petal. And you'll want to make 7 of these. And this is what your large petals should look, something like this. Now the next thing we're going to do is make, I believe it's called the calyx, this part of the plant. Now if I'm wrong, go ahead and tell me what it's supposed to be called in the comments below, but that's what I think it's called. I'm not totally up on my plant identification terminology, but that's what I think it is. So for all intents and purposes, I will call it the calyx. And then of course the stem and the stalk is the next thing we're going to go after. Now these two, one's bigger than the other, they're basically the same design with a couple of small variations. So as we go through this in the text, I will indicate the two different sizes, and you can decide for yourself which one you like best for your roses. So for this exercise, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the small one. And it's going to begin with an adjustable ring and a chain. Oh, and don't forget to switch your colors, of course. Then I'm going to make 10 single crochets. 1 and 10. And then I'm going to close the ring, but I'm not going to close it too tight because I want the opening to be large enough to slip over the stem of our rose. So probably something similar to this. And then I'm going to join. I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to single crochet 1 single crochet in that same stitch. And then I'm going to increase single crochet in the following stitches, in the 9 following stitches, and that should give me a count of 20. And then when I've completed my 20 stitches in round 2, I'm going to join. And then I'm going to chain 1. And then begin round 3. So for round 3, I'm going to single crochet in the same space. And then in the next stitch, I'm going to increase. And then the stitch after that is going to be a single crochet. And in the next stitch after that, I'm going to increase. And then in the stitch after that, a single crochet. So you can kind of see the pattern. An increase, and then a single crochet. And an increase, and a single crochet. By the time I finished round 3, I should have a total of 30 stitches. And then I'm going to join. And I'm going to chain 1. And then I'm going to single crochet in each stitch all the way around, giving round 4 a total of 30 single crochets. Now that row 4 is completed with 30 stitches, I'm going to go ahead and join. Chain 1. And for rounds 5 and 6, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to single crochet in that same stitch. And then I'm going to single crochet an additional 29 single crochets around the row. That'll be for both 5 and 6. I've completed round 6 and I've joined. I'm going to chain 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then in the second chain from the hook, I'm going to crochet a single crochet. And then I'm going to single crochet 2 more times. Then I'm going to half double crochet 3 times. Then I'm going to double crochet 2 times. And in that first chain right there at the base, I'm going to treble crochet. And then I'm going to treble crochet one more time right here at the point where we joined. Right there into that stitch. So you should have something that looks like this now. And then I'm going to skip the next 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to slip stitch in that 5th single crochet on the round, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch. So you should have something that looks like this so far. And then I'm going to chain 10. And I'm going to repeat what I did for this part of the piece. So again, second chain from the hook, I'm going to single crochet. And then I'm going to single crochet 2 more times. And then I'm going to half double crochet 3 times. And then I'm going to double crochet 2 times. And then I'm going to treble crochet in that very first chain stitch. And then I'm going to do another treble crochet, but I'm going to do it right into that single crochet where we started the chain 10 from. Just like that. And then I'm going to skip the next 4 stitches, and I'm going to slip stitch in that 5th stitch. And then I'm going to slip stitch in the next stitch. And I'm going to repeat this 3 more times. And then when you've completed your round, just go ahead and fasten off. And as before, leave yourself a nice tail because you're going to be using that to sew with. For the next part of this tutorial, you will need your 1 small petal, your 2 medium petals, and your 7 large petals. You also need 1 calyx, 1 wire 20 gauge, 1 tapestry needle, 1 crochet thread green color, and a number 2 size steel crochet hook. Now it's time to assemble our pieces. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 1 small petal, and I'm going to take my tapestry needle and I'm going to thread that tail. Now, with the right side of your work, this being your right side, facing away from you, you're going to go ahead and you're going to roll this petal over on itself. And this is going to be that middle petal in the center of your rose. And then I'm going to sew it in that position. So I'm just going to mostly tack it down here on the sides. Right, and you can roll it to your taste. And once I have it tacked down where I want it, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to weave in what's left over of this thread. So now I'm going to have this piece that's rolled over that looks sort of kind of like a cannoli, I guess, or a burrito, or whatever it looks like to you. And then I'm going to take my medium-sized pieces. I'm going to add them next. So again, I'm going to thread the tail. And now this time I want the right side of my piece to actually face towards the inside of the rose, right? It sounds a little anti-intuitive, but if I put it on the outside, once I roll over the petal, I get the wrong side showing, and I want the right side of this work showing. So I'm going to take my right side and I'm going to face it towards that first petal into the center of the rose. And I'm going to sew this piece on. And I'm just going to weave it back and forth a couple of times just to tack it in pretty good. I'm going to trim that off. And then I'm going to go ahead and thread my next medium-sized petal. And again, I want the right side of this petal and all the other petals after that to face in towards the center of the rose. And this time I'm going to wrap it around the side that is the open side of the second rose petal I had connected. So I'm going to sew that on like this. And you can already see that there is the bud showing, right? So you can see once I start to fold those over like that, you can start seeing the development of the petals take shape. Or if I wanted to, I could simply get a third medium-sized petal and just make a rosebud, right? But today's for the actual rose, so we only need 2 medium-sized petals for that. And I'm going to position that about where I think it's going to look best on my rose. So about like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew that petal on. Okay, so now that we have this part of the rose completed and sewn together, now I want to begin to work on the stem, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to run it through the center, actually towards the bottom of the rose. And I'm just going to have to, wiggle it on through so that it pushes through that layer of fabrics. There you go. And just bring that on through. And then I'm going to twist. This wire is pretty easy to work with. If you want to use a thicker gauge, like a size 16, it's going to be a little trickier to work with. You'll probably need to use a tool to twist it more easily. But I like the 20 gauge because it's stout enough to hold the rose in place, but easy enough for me to just quickly work with my hands when making an aperture. So now you have something like this. Now when it comes to this part, I am going to use the tool. And I'm going to use the tool just to tighten this up a little bit. And what I want to do is I'm just going to turn my wire a little bit. Just enough. It just allows me to keep a little extra exposed wire available if I need to, you know, undo it, so that I have something, a little extra wire to work with. And it also works to stop the thread crocheting part of the stem, keeps it from slipping off the end of the wire. So, and depending on what I'm going to use this flower for will depend on how I will eventually finish off the bottom part of the stem. But for now, that's all I need. And now we're going to begin to crochet again. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to insert my hook into where the wire loops through the petals, through the rose. And this can get a little fiddly. And what I'm going to start to do after that is I'm going to single crochet down the length of the stem. So like I said, it gets a little fiddly, but if you take your time, you can do it. Okay, so now that we've made it to the bottom of the stem, I'm going to start working my way back up again. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do kind of a slip stitch to the opposite side of the work. Just like that. And then I'm going to single crochet in each one of those single crochets, just on the opposite side. So I'm going to insert my hook into the next single crochet, but I'm working on the opposite side. Like I said, this can get a little fiddly, so just take your time. And so your stem should start looking like this. So I'll meet you back up at the rose end of this stem when I have finished with the last bit of this single crochets. Okay, now that we've made our way back up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, you know, do a couple of slip stitches or single crochets right up against that part of the wire that is hooked into the rosebud itself. I'm going to cut this off, give myself a tail after fastening this off. Then I'm going to thread my needle. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work this remainder of the thread into the rose itself. We'll just kind of use this to sort of tighten it up around that part of the stem. And now you should have something that looks kind of like this, right? So now it's time to get our large petals set up to place onto our rose. And now these petals, I'm going to sew them like this. and I'll show you what I mean. So basically I'm going to sew all 7 of these petals together in kind of this fashion. So for me, the spacing works out perfectly if I bring this edge right up to the edge of the 3rd row in the piece. So I'll bring each edge right up to about the 3rd row, and I'll keep them relatively straight across. And so the way I'm going to do this, again, of course, I'm going to thread my tail, and then I'm going to just kind of do a quick little stitch up the side of this until I reach this next petal. And then I'm going to tack in this side. I'm not going to sew any farther up past the center of the petal. So maybe this is about as far up as I'm going to go if I go up that far. Usually I'm going to be more around in this direction. And I'm going to tack that on like that. And I'm going to trim off any excess tail after I finish weaving it in a little bit. And then I will thread the next tail and do the same thing with the next petal, and so on and so forth until I have a long ribbon of petals. So once you get it all sewn together, you should have a ribbon of petals that looks like this. Now make sure that all your right sides are facing in the same direction and all your wrong sides are facing in the same direction. So the easiest way to do that is as you're sewing on your petals together, just make sure that all the right sides are facing you as you do your work. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and thread that last tail. Just like so. Now you might need a pin or two for this next section. So I'm going to grab a couple of pins. And then I'm going to have the right side of the petals once again facing in towards the center of our rose. And I'm going to lay it down and I'm going to kind of decide where I think it will look best. We're going to wrap this around like so. I'm going to take my pins and then I'm going to kind of hold my petals in place. And then I'm going to use this bit of thread that I have and I'm going to run it through. I'm going to weave it in and out at the base and towards the bottom part of my rose. Okay, so far you have a rose that looks like this. And if you start pulling back your petals a little bit to open up your rose, you can really start seeing it take shape. So for the calyx, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to thread that right through the stem. I'm going to pull it up. And then optional again if you want to use a pin or any kind of stick pins that you might want to use to hold this in place while you sew it on. Again, go ahead and thread that tail. And now with this side one, you might discover that you might need a little more thread, and that's fine. Just cut yourself off some more thread if that's the case. So now with this, we're just going to weave it on through, and we're going to pick it up in various parts of the calyx in a way that you can hide the stitching right into the stitches that are already there. So we want to weave it in right into the stitches in a way that hides the stitches. And then also it helps to strengthen the hold on the bottom of your petals as well. It kind of helps to hold everything together. Okay, and I'm going to finish doing that, and I'll meet you right back here in just a few. So now that you've finished assembling your piece, it should look something like this. And of course I like to twist the stem a little bit. It gives it a little interest. And then also would now be the time to start, playing with your petals a little bit and folding them back. And now you have your rose. Now it's time for me to say goodbye. So until I see all you wonderful creative fiber artists again, stay crafty, stay amazing, and above all, keep weaving your weird.